Have you ever wondered how powerful a person can be that they manage to destroy 5 campaigns? Well, wonder no more. Let's get right into it. Oh yeah, I'm Sweeps, and blah blah blah, you know the drill at this point. Let's get to the horror story.
And you are?
I'm the guy. The real guy.
So a few years ago, I, 22, was dating this guy, and he loved D&D. He actually convinced me to start playing and got me really into it. But the games we played were often overpopulated with players, so the sessions would consist mostly of waiting for players' turns to end and never actually getting to do much of anything else. Eventually, we decided to just start playing with my 2 siblings, my sister, who we'll call Rianne, 24 through 26, and my brother, 14 through 16, who we'll call Peter. Since we figured a smaller group would create a more enjoyable game, I had no idea the tedious many-playered games of old had completely protected me from learning the truth about this player. It generally seemed like it would be a really good change of pace to finally get to play small, simple games with just a few players. It has been 5 games, several almost games, and I am finally free from this disaster of a player DM, so I am more than ready to dish. We'll call him Kevin, 23 to 25.
Hi, Kevin.
Now, I should mention that before things got crazy, there was an almost game, which was actually cancelled because our friend wasn't keeping up with his college work. Honestly, points to Kevin, this one wasn't his fault. He did reveal in less than half an hour that Rian's secretly a drow character was a drow though, so there's that. From this point forward, all of our games consisted of only 4 of us. And dang was the first real game a doozy. We're playing Waterdeep, with Kevin as the DM. I was playing a drow noblewoman who was notably a surface-living, sun-proof, sheltered as heck princess of a woman. Rian was playing a human male cleric, and Peter was a female tiefling paladin. Due to our small party size, Kevin also played a DMPC who was a female fighter/rogue half-elf. Initially, he assured us that she wouldn't make much of an impact apart from additional DPS. Now, if only he mentioned that she was 1 level higher than us and min-maxed. It's hard to explain, but the way Kevin DM'd things just had to go a certain way. Something about the way Kevin set up scenes would force certain characters into center stage and prevent other characters from having a voice. The character who he always put center stage was Rihanna's cleric, which meant that Peter and I were out of luck. The game was kind of like a cheap slice of life anime with fantasy settings in Kevin's head. And like a cheap anime, some characters just wouldn't have screen time, and those who did suddenly had the world revolve around them as they were subject to wacky anime shenanigans. Kim would even describe our characters' exact reactions and feelings for us in order to make sure that these things happened exactly as he wanted, even if it was extremely out of character for our characters. Peter's character was the first one to be stepped on by the anime hammer, since she was going to have a slightly unhinged personality and sort of slowly reveal this. Unfortunately, because of the way Kevin DM'd, Peter's character was forced to being a bit more shy, tough girl. The one time Peter tried to have her make an off-color joke about how to clean up a body, Kevin threatened an alignment check and to take away her paladin powers.
Stop! You violated the law!
I don't think any of us knew we were even playing with alignments. Kevin also insisted on making comments about how top-heavy Peter's tiefling was, and she had an anime boob fall at least once with Rian's cleric. The character honestly had really small boobs too, and usually wore a full plate of armor, so I don't know how he fell into that. My character, the sheltered drow woman, was pretty much never allowed to do anything. It was like Kevin didn't know what to do with her, so he just sorta did nothing. What little he did do was also involved with another drow. My character would go into a shop and would randomly be run by a drider, or she would be at the harbor and happen upon some other drow. This actually meant nothing to her though, because she's never been exposed to her own culture and had no idea what a drider even is or what the struggle of a drow people were. It made the scenes incredibly awkward, and after that, well, she seriously wasn't allowed to talk. Kevin would just sort of never have a character talk to her or never let a scene involve her, so that even if I tried to speak up, the NPCs would just ignore my character. And you dated this guy?
When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
But damn, was Rihanna's cleric allowed to talk. Kevin, who I'll remind you was my BF at the time, was obsessed with Rian's cleric. See, every character in the game was sort of pushed into a relationship with some random NPC or another. My character got a drow fellow, Peter's got a shopkeeper. We could try and say our characters weren't interested, but that wouldn't do anything to stop the NPC's advancements. Rian's cleric, though, he got a very special treatment. The DMPC was his forced romance. There was constant flirting between Rian's cleric, repeated anime boob falls, his clothes getting blasted off twice, and so much sucking up to him. Kevin also made the story pretty much entirely about Rian's cleric, like the cleric was the protagonist or something. Every mini-story focused on the cleric's problems, life, and goals, and the DMPC was always there at his side to help him, except for the small mini-adventure where the Peter's character got the only magic weapon that any of us got in the game and was ridiculously overpowered, but I digress. Kevin's DMPC was a rich noble girl who was forced to join the Thieves Guild. She had a cursed domino mask that she couldn't take off, and during session 1 pretended to be a man in order to protect her identity. But Kevin kept making references to how she seemed uncomfortable in men's clothes and seemed to look longingly at the beautiful dresses worn by the noble women, before being revealed as a woman. Which would check out if she didn't wear black leather battle gear 24/7. The way our characters learned all this though was that we had to get fancy clothes for a ball, and the Drider Tailor could just tell that she was a woman, I guess, and put her in a super frilly dress. Unlike the second session, poof! Her need to hide her identity was gone. She's a woman now! She was also cured of her curse, by Rian's cleric of course, in like the third session during an awkward anime hot spring. All of this matters for future games because Kevin couldn't just figure out how to stretch out the drama.
Not cool.
Dude,
In terms of the forced romance, Peter's character's treatment was extra bad, so for plot reasons we had to stop by a shop to pick up some magic item or whatnot. Peter and Rian's characters both went together, and on entering, Kevin proceeded to describe an incredibly hot shopkeeper and how utterly amazing he was, and how he made Peter's character blush. Oh, but it got worse. I can't remember the exact circumstances, but Kevin had Peter roll a wisdom save. Something about whether or not Peter's tiefling fell for the hotness, I guess. Rian's cleric didn't have to, cause I guess he's straight according to God? LOL. Peter rolled very, very high, and being a paladin, he had a very good modifier. But apparently he failed that roll because I guess Peter's pal fell for seduction anyway. Not only is this not how these rolls work, but yikes. Rian tried in vain to interrupt and deflect this whole encounter, but was literally entirely ignored whenever she spoke up. Rian and Peter conspired to have their characters hook up and try and combat this nonsense. They told the party they were going to a restaurant to get food, and on the way had their plans utterly foiled by every possible anime shenanigan ever. Random side characters popping up, a literal half-giant wandering the streets, everything imaginable. And when they finally got to the restaurant, they weren't allowed to actually roleplay being there because, of course, it immediately had another stupid shenanigan. They knew they failed completely when the epilogue had Peter's character getting pregnant with the shopkeeper's spawn. Now, I never actually told Rian and Peter this, but that shopkeeper was one of the DM's OCs, so I guess my character was the only one not dating my BF's character. Seems like I kinda dodged a bullet there. This is without mentioning the extreme changes he made to the Waterdeep module's story. Out of the 4 villains, Kevin chose the evil rich couple whose names I've forgotten. This didn't stop the other villains from making random appearances, but that was a forgivable little thing. The biggest thing was the ending. Rian had heard from her friends that this ending was cool, and was the most excited for this crazed cool mansion at the end of the module with this villain set. But Kevin had other plans. I guess he thought he was a better writer than the official D&D writers? Because we got a multi-story demon-infested tower with crazy people at the bottom who wanted to summon demons from another world. We killed the demons, saved the day, and that was the end. No cool mansion, just a weird parade that was crashed by hordes of demons and a magic teleporting tower. And that is only the first game. I seriously wonder why we kept doing this to ourselves, but here we go. Look, I'm pretty sure you guys know at this point that I myself am a weeb. And I'm not going to lie, I too include anime stuff in my own games that I DM. Have you seen my main channel's thumbnail artwork? Hell, it's gone to the point that my players have essentially called my run of Curse of Strahd Curse of Dio. Although to be fair, they made that joke before they even met Strahd, so I just embraced it. But back to my point, even if you're an anime fan, you can't just push that stuff onto your players. I know that some people may find this hard to believe, but some people just don't like the things that you like. It's a natural part of life and you shouldn't force them to like that stuff. And you can't put them through these kinds of situations. I do have to wonder if OP and the others did talk to him about this, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point. Despite what some people on the internet will tell you, you don't need to like the same things as others do, even if you're dating them. And it can be for any reason. But you can't push your likes onto other people, especially into something like D&D. Players, if your DM is doing stuff like this that you don't appreciate, you need to be straight up with them about this immediately. This kind of behavior will have people think that silence is consent to continue. Nip it in the bud immediately. Game 2. Homebrew. Rian is DM. The next game was a homebrew campaign run by Rian. Rian is the DM, Kevin is a player, so no problems, right? I mean, he can't take over our characters if he isn't the one in charge. Or can he? Bum bum bum! In this game, I was a male blood hunter human. Rian had a DMPC who was a male Eldrin fighter, Peter was a male Genasi cleric, and Kevin was a min-maxed female elf wizard. We were told that when we started this was going to be a pretty serious campaign, so we all made characters with pretty dark backstories to match. Frankly, Kevin's character had the least dark backstory, with both my character and Peter's suffering from dead parent syndrome, and Rian's being trapped on a wrong plane with seemingly no way back. That would be completely fine, of course, since you can't compare trauma, except that Kevin's character kept insisting that she had it way worse than everyone else. Everyone else was basically never brought up their trauma because it's not exactly casual conversation with strangers. Kevin's wizardess was a grade A student from an exceedingly wealthy family who was challenged to a duel at magic school by a lower class human wizard. He was jealous of her and how rich and elfy she was, so they had a school sanctioned duel where she won by blasting his arm off with an ice spell.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Shit, not again.
This wildly traumatized Kevin's character into hating humans. Wait, what? How does that work? You blow off a guy's arm and you hate humans now? And never using ice magic again. Kevin arranged with Rian that maybe he could do trauma rolls for like ice like Caleb does for fire in Critical Role. This literally steals the fire trauma thing from Caleb in Critical Role, but was also kind of meaningless since he didn't even have a single ice spell in his spell list until Rian pointed out that he should at least have one for it to matter. Which he never cast, so Rian never had to do the trauma roll thing anyways. This character, I don't even know where to start. There were so many things, like how he was upset that we got all sentimental items at the start of the game because he wanted to get a magic item at level 1, or how he had his character weirdly hate Rian's character to the point of warning major NPCs to be distrustful of Rian's character. He didn't even back off from this even when the NPCs insisted Rian's character was fine. He even had his character speak in High Elf to an Elven NPC, hoping that Rian's Eldrin character wouldn't be able to understand what his character was saying. The result of this was basically that it pushed his character center stage, and as she was the only one interacting directly with the NPC in this language, it also literally invented a language, as the language doesn't exist in Rian's homebrew world, but Kevin just ignored that. Then there was the racism. The apparently trauma-induced hatred of humans was so amazingly disrupted. We actually were going to get some magic items like he wanted, but his troublesome character just had to insist that the shopkeeper we were going to buy them from was evil and trying to play us. Entirely on the grounds of the shopkeeper is human and humans can't be trusted.
Pitiful human!
He was so wildly mean to the shopkeeper that even after Rian tried to have the shopkeeper just talk to Peter and my characters, it was no good. The magic of the moment was gone. Thankfully, after Rian spoke with him, this mostly stopped. But those were the little things. The rest of this was encompassed within one city where we were able to go before the game stopped altogether. This city was actually designed around Peter's character's backstory, so it was naturally supposed to focus on Peter's character. Kevin couldn't stand not being the center of attention though, so he decided to hijack the plot. He did this by literally abandoning the team in the middle of a fight. We're talking 4 massive golems inside a greenhouse-like building, with my character somehow lucky enough to be cornered between one golem and the wall nearby Kevin's character. The DM almost certainly meant for us to tag team this fight, with Rian and Peter's characters stuck together on the other side of the room. I was down for that up until the point where my health started to get a little low, and Kevin's response was to run away. Straight out the door, like straight up completely abandoning my character to be crushed by a golem. The supposed reason Kevin did this was to prepare a spell, and because his character was scared. Naturally, this meant the entire conversation after the fight was comprised of our characters being mad at Kevin's character for running out on them when they needed her. This completely destroyed the intended post-fight scene, which was going to be a very emotional moment for Peter's character, during which he reconciles with his family. Afterwards, Kevin stood by his belief that what he did in that fight was the right thing to do because his character was in danger and it was strategic. Because saving his own ass and leaving my character to die is strategic. To this day, I think Kevin thinks this was the best move. At any rate, we were willing to work with all of this and find a way to get the story back on track. The idea was that the characters would have a conversation with Kevin's character, she'd pour her heart out, we'd all be friends, and move on. This did not happen. Kevin decided to add another layer to that strategy defense by having his character explain that even though she'd been traveling for quite some time with this group and fought off more than a few terrible monsters with them, she just couldn't possibly trust them. And not just because I was playing a human. Kevin threw the ball into Rian's court with this one, and expected Rian to adjust the story to fit and come up with a reason for Kevin's character to trust the others. So even though this was Peter's character's backstory city, the city was quickly reworked to include Kevin's character. A session was spent meeting with the family of the wizard whose arm he blasted off. Theoretically, Kevin's character would meet the family, see that they're kind and forgiving, and find a way to move forward. It was a little fast moving for character development, but based on the last campaign, that's how Kevin likes it. Kevin didn't take to this solution though, and decided it just wasn't enough to convince his character to work with the party and stop being hateful to them every chance she got. She talked to Rian between sessions about the possibility of playing a new character, which at this point wasn't the worst option. He still wasn't willing to pay attention to the details of the world that Rian had set up though, or to work with Rian on creating a character that fits into said world. He basically tried to create an entire order of specialized knights that wouldn't make sense to exist in the very political, corrupt world, and also wanted to play a race that wouldn't be able to exist in the world due to plot reasons. It was literally the only race we were barred from playing. Kevin wasn't willing to barge on this new character, so he ended up deciding not to change characters at all. The game would soon fizzle out afterwards, as no solution could be found, and everyone was understandably a little uncomfortable with continuing a game where none of their characters would openly chat with each other without being accused of some great evil because of their suspiciousness. Also, this character was a perfect anime waifu who flusteredly eats toast, and was super gentle and nice, but tough as she can be at the same time with some tsundere tendencies. Blah blah blah, team game, blah blah blah, spotlight hog. This stuff that we had talked about here before, but I do have to say Kevin is a special kind of jackass. Yeah, a cute character like me using that word, I should have my mouth washed out with soap. He's more than a that guy. He's more than a weeb. He's a spoiled brat for all to see. Where I think Kevin fails with this is that, one, his reasoning for why he was prejudiced against humans is stupid. Your character blew off a human's arm and that made your character racist? Seriously, how does that even work? Like, the idea of playing a racist character is iffy to me, I guess. And knowing the internet today, I'm not going to give my opinion on whether or not you should play one. But at the very least, it can be good, I guess, if you can do it right. So long as you get everyone's permission and know what you're doing. And two, no matter what, a player shouldn't be interfering with the game or the other players, especially when there's an obvious section that's dedicated to another player. Everyone deserves their time in the spotlight. Don't be a jerk and steal it from other people, you jerks. Game 2.5. One shot, Kevin is DM. I don't know why, but we played another game he DM'd. This was really fun in concept one-shot story where the characters we played were completely randomly generated on D&D Beyond. That sounds actually pretty neat. I got to play a total edgelord Dark Angel ASMR because of this, and I love that. I don't love the way Kevin got mad whenever Rian used spells to disguise self to get around guards, but that's again just a little thing. What I really don't love was the inevitable vaguely sexual super weird part that just happened to happen. Yeah, this one shot ended with a naked dwarf girl child. Oh!
Disgusting!
I honestly barely remember this one. My siblings were scarred. No! Jesus Christ. Brrr. Ugh, that got dark. The game we almost played. No idea who would have been the DM. I almost played a game where we played as characters that were designed to match our favorite tropes in media. Basically, I love foxes, so I'd play a kitsune. Peter loves Toho, so he'd play a Toho. That sort of thing. It was really exciting, and I even brought a mini of my character and painted half of it because I just couldn't wait. I was really good at self-blinding, I guess. At any rate, I didn't finish painting the mini, and the game never happened because the minute Kevin found out that my character is gay, he went crazy. For jokes.
Ha! Gay!
Every time I try to talk about my character's serious backstory and how it connected to Rian's character, Kevin would turn it into some horribly uncomfortable comment about how funny gay men are and how I must have chosen to make this character gay because I think gay people are funny.
Hey, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, I'm gay, so yeah, that didn't happen. Okay then. This is getting really uncomfortable right now. The Halloween's one-shot. Rian DM'd this one. This one weirdly was 100% okay. It's also the only one where Kevin played a male character. How curious. Game 3, Star Wars. Kevin is DM. Oh boy, Star Wars. And then we went right back into prepping for another big game. I love how we kept doing this to ourselves. Really, I'm learning a lot just typing this. This game was going to be a Star Wars campaign set during the Clone Wars, where Rian played a female human Mandalorian, I played a male Zeltron Jedi, Peter played a human male con man, and Kevin played a female Amwadi noblewoman. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so forgive me. Kevin decided that he would try and make the game more interesting by rolling just for about everything that happened. What race NPCs are, how many bad guys we fight are on a map, everything. It was pretty annoying, but oh well. In this game, Kevin also decided to bring back a lot of memorable mistakes that he never learned from with the Waterdeep campaign. For example, he decided that our spaceship was pretty damaged, so we'd have to collect parts to fix it as we went. That would have been a pretty cool and interesting side mission, except that he decided, quite like how his DMPC from before's problems all just went away, and that we would fix the ship almost entirely on like the second session, because his super rich perfect character paid for the repairs. He also repeated the exact same mistake he made with my Waterdeep character. During a short trip, the characters took to the marketplace. Kevin rolled his dice to see what the NPC running the stall would look like, and somehow decided from the numbers he got that the character would be a Zeltron. My best guess that any number between 1 through 5 would be connected to one of our characters, 6 through 10 would be another, etc., such that it could just be easily been a Mandalorian. This would have created basically the same problem though, since the rolled character obviously has nothing to do with our backstory, since he just came up with them on the spot. Also, my Zeltron is a Jedi. He has no connections to the Zeltron planet, quite like how my Drow had no connections to Drow society. It literally meant nothing to my Jedi who had been raised in the temple on Coruscant since he was a toddler, but Kevin kept looking at me waiting for me to act like it meant something huge. There was also the fact that he kept using odd and uncomfortable wordings for things, such as having multiple NPCs refer to Rian's character as She-Mando, which was just so uncomfortable, as well as the quiet fear that he was playing yet another flawless, beautiful, light-haired woman who was the absolute picture of what a man wishes feminine grace looked like in real life. This character's backstory actually had some potential to fit into the story though, so we were willing to roll with it. We even enjoyed the dynamic all 4 of our characters have so much that we sort of naturally moved from the end of one session into a full-on roleplay session. Kevin felt that during this session that his character had nothing to say to ours though, and had her go straight to bed, making it awkward to try to have everyone continue chatting. He then complained about how bored he was, and how poorly the campaign was going, and called it quits, thus ending the campaign entirely. We're pretty sure he wasn't thrilled to learn that Rian is an uber Star Wars fan and knows a lot about the lore, so her character was super fleshed out. Because we built our characters together, and with advice on the world of Star Wars from Rian, Peter and I pretty much fleshed out our characters too. Kevin didn't want to talk out his character with the rest of us though, and has this bizarre tendency to just zone out when you're talking to him unless it's his turn to talk. I think he truly waits to hear a word that he knows something about, and then goes off on what he can think to say about whatever that word is, even if it totally derails the conversation. So, like if we were talking about Rian's Mandalorian has an owl for her symbol, he might pull the word Mandalorian and just start talking about how the Mandalorian Creed in comics that he totally heard about YouTube. Either way, he had little to no interest in working out the character together with us. And that should have been fine if he was just willing to actually do something with her. I understand he was probably nervous after things went so badly with Waterdeep, but it's difficult to do better if you don't even do anything at all.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Kevin breaks out. Kevin is a player in someone else's game. After this game, we decided we're not compatible players. I also kind of broke up with him. Should have done so sooner. We play our own games and work with having only 3 players, and Kevin plays with a group he found online. I was pretty genuinely happy for him. Maybe the issue was that we had conflicting styles, and this group would be better for him in the long run. You already know where I'm going with this.
Of course!
Yeah, he repeated another one of his old mistakes and completely abandoned his party. I remember how proudly he described his character's last stand against the final boss, as if the rest of the party wasn't even there, because it's all about him.
It's all about me!
The final boss could be found within a rift in time and space, which the party accidentally pulled into by a portal. With them was an NPC who the party was supposed to defend. When the fight started to get tough, Kevin had his character pick up said NPC and fly towards the portal to escape. The DM blatantly tried to slow him down by throwing all kinds of monsters at him, as if saying, "Wait! Stop!" but Kevin just had his character swerve around and said monsters and fly right out of the portal. That was when he learned the boy was the thing holding the portal open, and it closed, trapping his entire party inside. He literally trapped his entire party, including the cleric who was his character's in-game husband, inside a time loop where they would have a never-ending eternal battle with an incomprehensible demon. And he was proud of this.
You monster.
Wow, what a dick. This was, to him, the best ending. Why? Because he was the hero. Duh. Also, this character was yet another beautiful young woman with no flaws and a delicate kind of personality who is just so cute when she's angry. I am so glad my blood hunter didn't die that one time. Anyways, if you stuck with me this long, thank you so much. I know it was a lot, but dang, I have been letting this sit with me way too long, and when I heard about that last campaign, I think some part of me just died. TLDR, my ex-boyfriend had a bad habit of destroying campaigns by making the same mistakes over and over again. Also, he played perfect waifus and loved to sprinkle in hints of sexism into every interaction. Ha! Beer! Alright, Kevin's a dick. Yeah, not much to say there. Granted, in comparison to a whole bunch of the other stuff that I've read on these forums and Reddit posts, it's actually, you know, when you got stalkers, people willing to commit assault, and some really disgusting fetish stuff.
Do not mention the fucking bike pump.
Yeah, Kevin's still a dick. Don't get me wrong, if you're a player like Kevin, you're annoying as all hell, and you really shouldn't run away from your party, especially in the final battle. You shouldn't do what Kevin did, and you need to be able to learn from your mistakes as well as realize that sometimes you're being a dick. The best way to go about this is to talk to the other players at the table, or if you're the DM, talk to your players to get feedback. Even if you think you're not doing anything wrong, you should be asking your players and fellow D&D people for feedback. Kevin comes off as a spoiled brat to me, but that's par for the course in these kinds of stories. In any case, I'm Sweeps, thank you for watching, and if you have a D&D horror story suggestion, let me know down below. Thanks for watching!